Let's be real. None of us are going to be millionaires if we keep using Google Pay as if Google is paying. But what if I told you there's a way you can manage your own money, and that's not by watching a YouTube tutorial that will make you yawn in zero point 0.5 seconds? That's right. My name is Shreya, and you're listening to Misunderstood the Assignment. The assignment at hand today is saving money. And for this episode, we have some really interesting guests because I know what you're thinking. If I give you advice on saving money, you'll have none. Today we have with us Anushka Rathod, who is a finance content creator, and with her fun videos, she makes finance look like an episode of Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. And we have Aniket, who is our operations lead here at BuzzFeed, and he manages one of the most important tasks here, which is budgets. Welcome to the podcast, you guys.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me as well, and thanks for myself for all of this
Oh my
every day,
God.
all year round.
Yeah.
Thanks for your budget skills.
Yes. So, today we are here to discuss money, right? And as a person who is in her mid 20s, I want to just mention that I actually started saving money really late, 6 months ago, because before that I was really living life on the edge. And this is because a friend of mine, she's actually in her 30s, she gave me this advice that Shreya, your 20s are to have fun. Like, it's your 30s when you should save, like take that trip, buy that dress, like you have to live recklessly. And then one day there was an emergency and suddenly I was like, oh my God, I have no money. And that's when I realized I don't think your 20s are to just spend and then you have your 30s to save, right? So my question to you guys is, what according to you is the correct age to start saving money?
As soon as possible. Like, I started saving when bachpan we used to get those lifafas at, family functions. And I just straight away give it to my parents, give it to my mother. Now, she would go and spend it. That's a different story. But I would save it.
Yeah.
So start saving as early as possible. But like you said, 20s is also to have fun. So depending upon how much you're earning, how much you are able to budget,
Yeah.
how much ever you can, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, just start as early as possible. But then do it in a, more balanced way. You can't like crash save all your money. Like, you can't crash diet. It has to be consistent.
That's actually a good point. Aniket, do you agree with that?
That makes complete sense. Keep the habit of saving going rather than, spending everything.
And since we are here to get tips from you guys, I wanted to ask y'all, what do you think are some good investments that people in their 20s can look into?
There's no one investment option which is good for everyone. It depends upon your time horizon.
Yeah.
But you always have to start with what my goal is.
Yeah.
And for that goal, how much time do I have and how much risk can I take? And accordingly decide your investment options.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about a few goals that you guys have. And we can then create what an ideal investment portfolio for you would look like.
Okay, that's
Sounds
actually
fun,
interesting.
yeah.
I don't like, this is not like a personal goal, but I have discussed this with my friends recently who want to go abroad to study for their masters, say in like 2 or 3 years. So, do you have like a good suggestion to go there?
So when you're going abroad to study in the next 2-3 years, it's very difficult to save up for that.
Yeah.
So what you can do is first estimate how much amount you need, what your education, your tuition fees is going to be, and what your living expenses are that. Once you come up with that amount, see what is the maximum you can save today, and then because you need it in the near future, put it in low risk investments. Now, one very big mistake that people make it is that I'm going to put all of it in the stock market because that's the only place where my money can double in the next 3 years. But that's wrong, because your money can also become half. So your 1 to 3 year goals, put them in low risk investments.
Okay.
So that could probably be a 3-year FD, or that could be a debt mutual fund, which are short term mutual funds with low risk.
Yeah.
And they invest in companies' debt. So you can either invest in these. Now, if you don't understand what debt mutual funds are, FDs are great because you might earn a little less, but at least you know what you're doing there.
Yeah.
So you invested there. Now, after that, you will have to take a loan then. So for that, start building up your credit score so that you have a good credit history and you get your loan at a lower rate.
Yeah.
So that is how you will get your corpus to go and study abroad.
Okay, so since we actually came on the topic of credit score, I just have one quick question. I recently got a credit card, and there is this option in credit cards which says you can pay the minimum amount due or the full amount.
Scary, scary,
Yeah.
scary.
So I just wanted to ask, how does that affect your? Because there are months where, I am not able to pay the full credit card amount, and I was discussing with my friends, and a lot of them were like, "Oh yeah, we to keep paying the minimum due because it's an option, right?" But I think that affects your credit score. So is that a real thing? Like, if we keep paying the minimum amount due, does it affect the credit score?
So much. And on top of that, you're paying 36 to 42% interest on the amount you're not paying.
Did
That's
not know.
crazy, crazy high. You should always pay your credit card bill in full. So never, never, ever pay only the minimum amount due. Credit cards are great to get rewards and, complimentary lounge access and all. But always pay them in full. Always.
That actually, like,
Did you yawn?
I did not. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't understand most of it, but I'm going to, do the thing that you said, that Google some of these jargons. Since you asked us if we yawned, I think we should break this technical aspect and have like a fun game segment. Okay, so I have this game segment for you guys that is called This or That, where I'll give you two options, and you all have to choose one option and just summarize and tell me why would you rather have this. Okay, so the first one is home loan or upfront payment for a house.
Home loan. Because your home loans are one of the cheapest loans out there, so you're not blocking your money, and the amount that you're getting a loan, you're putting that money. Now the extra money that you have, you can probably invest in a mutual fund and get more. So my home loan is like 8% today, but for my mutual fund long term, I can earn 14%. So you see the difference.
Yeah.
I'm earning more by taking the home loan, and my money is not blocked.
Also, you would get like a tax benefit of a home loan as well.
Okay, debit card or credit card for daily expenses?
Credit card.
Debit card. I'm too
Really?
scared of credit cards. Like, I just got one recently, but I am just so scared to use it because I'm like, I will owe a bank money. I don't want to be in that situation.
So, like a solution for you are cashback credit cards. Like Google them. There's this amazing credit card from SBI, and there are like a couple of more from Axis. I don't exactly recollect the name, but they're amazing. On every online transaction you make, you get 5% off, and you don't have to meticulously plan rewards or anything. It's not complicated. Very simple. So, like Google cashback credit cards.
Interesting.
Okay, rent or buy a house in 2023?
I would
Stay in
say-
your parents' house.
I would say rent. I don't want the liability of owning a house and maintenance and all that. Plus, I realized, like, if you buy a house and you give it out on rent to somebody else, the rent that you receive is going to be way lesser than the actual EMI amount that is going from your account. And then it's like, I can't do this.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, last question. Would you rather borrow 10 lakhs from a friend or run up a credit card debt?
Friend.
Right?
I'm scared of banks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of this game segment. And now let's get to the main topic of this video, which is taxes. My question is, like, let's say a person is filing taxes for the first time. What are some things that you would tell them to keep in mind while doing it?
For the first time of their filing, so probably you're in early 20s. Don't do tax planning, just opt for the new tax regime. So the government has two tax regimes. There's a new one and there's an old one. For someone who's just starting, you can actually, instead of opting for the old tax regime where you have to do all this meticulous planning, you can just opt for the new tax regime, which has more tax slabs, so that your tax liability calculated out of that is inherently low, and you don't have to do any of these investments for that. But the thing is, if you do those investments, you can't take those deductions or exemptions there. But when it comes to someone, say, who is a little more experienced or who already has, these investments and they want to plan it and their income is also more, they can then, take advice from a CA and then properly plan it. They might be able to save more tax that way. But if you're someone who's new, definitely consider new tax regime. Again, there are a lot of online calculators available which will compare both the tax regimes and tell you which tax regime helps you save more money. In fact, even ClearTax has one when you're filing your taxes.
Since you're on the topic of tax, I wanted to ask you guys about tax returns, right?
This is, again, like so wide as a topic. So let's start with the basics. What your existing expenditures are. So first is your rent. Second is your travel. Now, and third also your the courses that you do, Netflix subscriptions and all. Yeah.
Netflix subscriptions have tax benefits.
Let me
Wow, what a
Let me
clickbait
come to that.
title.
Okay, so how these work is your company gives HRA allowance, LTA allowance, and it gives you a research allowance as well. So how these work is they give you like a certain amount, like 12,000 rupees, and when you spend that amount and you give the proof to your company, that won't be added to your taxable income. You won't be taxed on that. So that is deducted from it. Now, when I'm talking about research allowance, now a lot of companies actually give their employees a research allowance where they can do the courses and that income won't be taxed. So since you work like for the best company in media, you can probably tell them that I'm doing research on Netflix, getting
I
ideas.
do that.
Yeah, and this is like work for me. And so
Yeah.
my subscription should be counted in the research allowance. Now, of course, you can't tell them like, you have to only give. Of course, it's their decision, but you can request them to give your research allowance. So that part of your salary gets reallocated as research allowance. You're not getting more money on top, but that part which is reallocated is not taxed.
Yeah.
So you're saving money on taxes there.
Got it.
Got it? Now, second is your other expenses. Now, that could be your health insurance, your life insurance, and you have your home loan principal and the interest payments that you're making, your home loan EMIs. Now, you can take tax deductions from these expenses also. So, your health insurance is deductible up to 25,000. If you're paying it for your parents, is another like 50,000 if they're senior citizens. For your life insurance under ATC, that's also deductible. So, these are your expenses that you're making. They're not giving you returns. So, the next point is to save taxes, you can also invest. Now, what are these investment options? Again, that depends upon the goal that you have.
Yeah.
Now, you can't put your money in a ELSS fund if your goal is, say, in the next 1 year, I want to go for a vacation, even
Yeah.
if it gives you a tax benefit, because ELSS has a lock-in of 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't, put your money in a ELSS fund. But depending upon the time horizon that you have, you can put your money into fixed as well as market linked, which are your equity linked instruments. So depending upon your time horizon, you have your investment options. Now, if you want to go for a fixed investment, you have your tax saver FD and you have PPF. PPF is a great tool for retirement planning. It comes with a lock-in of 15 years. Which is a lot, but the money that you put in as well as the interest that you get on that is completely tax free, which is great because today if you invest in a mutual fund, after say a year, more than 1 lakh, you also have to pay taxes on the returns that you're earning on it.
Right.
So it's like taxed again. मतलब एक तो खून पसीने का पैसा बचा रहे हो, उसे इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, उस पे वापस तुम्हें टैक्स भरना है. That's why I love PPF because you're getting that tax benefits out of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Other than that, if your time horizon is a little longer, you can also you can invest in ELS's mutual funds. And beyond that, if you also want to extend your ATC investments, now all these were ATC. There's also something called as National Pension Scheme, which gives you additional 50,000 return.
Yeah.
But again, these are something, tax saving is of course a part, but you should not only obsess over tax saving because they come with a lot of lock-ins. So consider it as a part of your entire portfolio, but don't obsess over it. Think from goal first view and then do your tax planning.
But yes, guys, thank you for being on this podcast. I hope you all had a good time. And to the listeners, thank you for listening to this podcast as well. If you guys enjoyed listening to this episode of Misunderstood the Assignment, then don't forget to tune in next week for a new episode. Also, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other streaming platform where you get your podcast from. Also, if you like this episode, then don't forget to give us a nice rating and review.